Hi, I'm Andre, and it's time for another Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles episode recap. Turtle power. Yes, I know there hasn't been that many videos from the last Turtles episode to this recap. I'm gonna try to put more stuff out, so I'm not just talking about Turtle recaps all the time, but that's how they do, man. They come up, they give you about weeks and weeks, and you go like, oh, hey, Turtles is here, and then you talk about it for like several weeks, and then they go away for like 3 months. And somehow when they're gone for 3 months, no one says a thing, but as soon as they come back for a couple weeks, you always get those comments, Andre, all you do is do recaps of Ninja Turtles. There's only 26 episodes a season. There's 52 weeks a year. It's not possible. Anyway, back in the Belfry. The Turtles are comparing comic books and we get a whole bunch of comic book parodies / references. Michelangelo is a big fan of the comic book Wingnut and Screwloose. Those are actual characters in the TMNT Universe. We've seen them before in toys and cartoons and comics. They are now in this universe as a superhero comic book team, very similar to the 60s Batman and Robin. It's a cross between the old comic books and the 60s Batman television show. And then we get some other comic book parodies. We get Arachnid Man, Superb Man, The Indelible Bulge, and my personal favorite is Raphael reads a comic book called The Fantastic Four Food Groups, when they're just superhero versions of the 4 food groups. That was hilarious. I like that. Good joke. Meanwhile, Donatello is trying to check out a little bit more of April's crystal because it's making her do some really weird things. She seems to be very possessed and obsessed with it. And while looking at it, this white cloud comes out. You mentioned something about Fantastic Four. A cloud has to show up. This mysterious cloud seems to have some electric charge to it. And when it touches Michelangelo's comic book, it actually brings this giant eyeball called Monocules and brings that out of the comic book into real life. Michelangelo notices it. Casey Jones notices it. None of the other turtles believe Mikey. Even after the turtles use their grappling hooks and then fight this eyeball and knock it down, they still don't believe that Michelangelo is telling the truth, that it came from the comic book. So in order to prove that he's telling the truth, he steals April's crystal, uses it on his comic book, and Wingnut and Screwloose are brought to life in front of Michelangelo and Casey Jones. And it's kind of weird that we're seeing Wingnut in this because remember a couple seasons back when April O'Neil's dad turned into a bat creature, and I think even at one point Michelangelo even called him a wingnut, and we all thought that that was the wingnut for this version of Turtles. Well, now we see it's not. Interesting note about Screwloose. Screwloose is voiced by Jeff Bennett. Jeff Bennett was the voice of the Colorado Kid from Wild West Cowboys of Moo Mesa, who actually did some crossovers with the Ninja Turtles in the comic books and also in an episode of Ninja Turtles Fast Forward. So I'm just saying, you know, if we want to do a little Ninja Turtles Wild West Cowboys crossover for this series, that might be kind of fun to do. I'm just throwing it out there. Just giving a suggestion. Wingnut and Screwloose originally do not believe that Mikey and Casey are friends. They think they're enemies because there's an enemy in their comic book called Tortoise Man, and they think that's who Michelangelo is, so they start fighting him. Eventually, Michelangelo proves that they are friends to Wingnut and Screwloose, and they want to help them fight crime, and so since one is a giant bat dude and the other is an insect dude, it only makes sense for Michelangelo to join them. The return of Turf Fly! Oh, buzz, buzz, buzz! Buzz, buzz, buzz! Buzz, buzz, buzz! And yes, man, they do the straight up 60s Batman style where they're always talking like Adam West and Burt Ward and everything, and it's very, very funny. And even later on in the episode, you get the bonks, pals. That was cracking me up, man. Just anytime you can take me back to those classic days of the 60s Batman, when I used to watch all the time in reruns. I didn't watch it in the 60s. I'm not that old. But when they used to show reruns on the Family Channel or whatever, I used to watch that series all the time. So it was nice to see these throwback references. My personal favorite was there was one where they were climbing up the side, what looked like the side of a wall. They were just walking regular on the ground, which was kind of reference to how they would shoot that in the old Batman series. Batman would be climbing up a wall, but technically it was them actually walking on the ground, and they would move the footage up. They would tilt it to make it look like they're climbing up a wall. You still with me? But man, when this crystal gets gone, April loses her freaking mind. She's like, where's my crystal? I need it. And I was like, dang, you know, April on that crystal, y'all. I'm sorry. She looked like she was on crack at that moment. She was literally like, I need that crystal. Well, you got it, Donnie. She's like throwing everything around, going insane. Splinter's like, hey, you need to calm down, April. She's like, no, I don't care. I ain't calming down till I get my crystal. I was like, oh my gosh. Hey man, I'm April O'Neil. You got my crystal? Is it fine? 5 o'clock free crystal giveaway. It gives me wings. Michelangelo and Casey Jones are still having fun fighting crime with Wingnut and Screwloose, and they actually come across one of Wingnut's arch nemesis, Skullface. It's like Skullface McGullion or Skullface McGalligan or something like that, who the whole time is like, I'm Skullface, see? I'm gonna fight you, see? I'm gonna take you out, see? And he throws these little skull faces around. Kind of reminded me of Skeletor a little bit. Michelangelo and Casey Jones were confused because they're like, wait a minute, we just used the crystal to get Wingnut and Screwloose out. We didn't bring out this villain, and they're finding out that because of the crystal, more things from the comic book are starting to appear in the real world. When they explain this to Wingnut and Screwloose and show them the crystal, they freak out. Wingnut and Screwloose are like, that's the source of our power. That's what's making us real. If we can hold on to that crystal, we'll become more real. They steal the crystal from Michelangelo and Casey Jones, and then Wingnut and Screwloose literally become a man-bat, like a bat creature and a mosquito creature to get more scary, and they're looking a little bit closer to their original forms from the older versions of Turtles, and it freaked me out. Now with Wingnut and Screwloose with the crystal, they're monstrous beings. More things are coming out of the comic book, including their tower, which becomes their lair. More Batman references when they go in the lair. That we see alternate costumes of Wingnut and Screwloose. We see their giant penny. Turtles have to go there and stop them. April, of course, is ready to stop them because she knows they got her crystal and she needs that back. They use those grappling hooks again, which a lot of you have said, Andre, that's probably a reference to Attack on Titan, because Attack on Titan, the kids use grappling hooks to fight the giant man-eating things of the Titans that they attack on. Got it. I need to watch more anime. Michelangelo realized that if you hit the bell in the tower, it makes Wingnut and Screwloose go crazy, so they do that. The Turtles get the crystal back. Wingnut and Screwloose turn back into their human costume selves, and then realize that this is not the world that they should be in. They need to go back to their comic book, and they do, and everything goes back to normal, except for April, because April now has her crystal again, and Donatello's like, you know what, I probably need to see that crystal again, do some more tests, and she's like, no, Donnie, you ain't getting this crystal. Nobody ain't getting this crystal. This crystal is gonna be mine forever. I'm never taking it off again. And it ends on that. So I'm really concerned about April and this crystal. Are we gonna get like some kind of Dark Phoenix saga for April O'Neil in this series with this crystal? I don't know. We got an evil April coming into fruition. We got a super shredder that's possibly happening. It's gonna get dark in Turtle Land. This is a complete side quest story, except for a little bit more explanation about April. But hey, I had fun with it just because of all the references to 60s style Batman. The only thing would have made it better if they actually got Adam West and Burt Ward to do the voices. That would have been cool. But that's okay, because they got that movie. There's an animated movie that's coming out. They're doing like a version of 60s Batman in animated form, and Adam West and Burt Ward are voicing Batman and Robin in that. What do you think about this episode of Ninja Turtles and how they did Wingnut and Screwloose in this universe, and what classic characters should we keep bringing back? Make sure that you are subscribed so you can see these videos as well as all the other videos I put up on my channel every single week. I love you like a play cousin. I'm Audi 5000. Chain chomp yomp.